than read into it at an angle where they're only referencing Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas. They're not looking at the broader scope or the broader issues that Fallout has had from the beginning. They just blame Bethesda and say that the show is a bad product because Bethesda.
Oh, that causes so many problems. Also, how the fuck is he supposed to... Oh, right, Bethesda.
Well, as I was saying... What's up, everyone? Hope we're having an amazing day. So, the Fallout TV show was really fucking good. So good that it's even getting renewed for a second season, which I'm absolutely ecstatic about. I mean, I really enjoyed most of the characters and plot lines of the first season, and the setup for what all I can do with this show is just insane to start speculating. But you know who isn't happy to see the Fallout show succeed so well that it's getting a second season? The Fallout Elitists, Creetosis, and his two friends Pagan and Setch, which is exactly what we'll be discussing in today's video. See, I wanted to give these guys a fair chance with their criticisms about the show, which is more than I can say they actually did for the show, which I can point to multiple examples both before and after the show's initial release, where Creetosis and or his friends inadvertently admit to wanting to hate the show before even seeing it, going into bad faith and assuming the worst immediately, and basically just overall not giving it a fair chance whatsoever. Obviously, once I realized this, and saw more of their criticisms, it was clear just how unreasonable they were being. One of these examples that I can point to in this video, where Creetosis goes on to talk about how Amazon quote-unquote knew the show was going to fail, all because of the fact that they decided to release the entire first season 2 days early, and all at once on streaming services, instead of episodically. Ironically enough, he even boldly claims that Amazon had more faith in Rings of Power than they did Fallout, due to the nature of how the show was advertised and released, which is just such a fallacious argument.
It's also worth noting that Amazon bumped up the release date for the show at the 11th hour. After having been scheduled for months to release on April 12th, they instead dropped the entire series on April 10th, which only tells me how little faith Amazon had in this show. Weekly releases tend to keep a show in the public conscious longer, as something dumped all at once will be forgotten about faster, as it won't be an ongoing conversation for people. Weekly releases are a very good thing for shows, because it allows word of mouth to spread for longer, and many YouTubers interested in your show, for better or worse, will be talking about it for weeks on end and drawing more eyes to it. This is how I came to watch House of the Dragon, which I really enjoyed, and I might not have watched otherwise. Dumping a show all at once is a sign of a lack of faith, as best evidenced by Disney Marvel's Echo. Disney Plus shows tend to release on a week-by-week basis, as is standard for most shows outside of Netflix, but when it came to Echo, they seemingly wanted to get past it quick, and the solution was to just dump it all at once. Amazon has not only done the same thing with Fallout, but the sudden announcement of moving it up at the last second seems really strange to me. It gives me a distinct impression of a lack of faith in the show, and after having seen the first episode, I could see why. It's also worth noting too, that Amazon had enough faith in Rings of fucking Power that they released that on a week-by-week basis, and they didn't do that for the Fallout show.
Hinging on such a tiny, insignificant detail before the show was even released to fuel this cope idea and hatred for the show, it just reeks of elitism. I mean, I'd love to see him claim that Amazon had no faith in Vox Machina succeeding, or expected it to flop because they released that in full seasons all at once. Vox Machina, the show that's had widespread success and fame since it came out. It's a fucking retarded mentality. No corporation just releases a show that they expect to fail either, considering the entire point is to succeed and make profits. It's one thing if the media they release is just a soulless cash grab of an IP, which the Amazon Fallout series is not, but even in those cases, they never just quote-unquote expect it to fail like your cope argument so desperately suggests. But enough hinging on this stupid fallacy. I'm getting way too caught up on only the first example already, which I think that speaks volumes for just how stupid the rest of their arguments we'll be covering really are. I mean, just to emphasize my point, I'll hammer this in with my next example. During one of Creetosis' dollar store knockoff EFAP podcasts about the Fallout show, one of his close friends Setch was bold enough to go as far as to claim the Halo series was technically better than the Fallout show.
Fallout New Vegas was, of course, I'd say it's between Fallout 2 and Fallout New Vegas, of which one I think is the peak of Fallout. And, of course, you have so many of them, like, Bethesda's Fallouts are all dog shit. Like, I think the only way you would ever save the entire franchise is if you managed to get it away from Bethesda and immediately decanonize anything they've ever done with it.
Yeah.
And that includes the show, because the show is absolute hot trash. It is probably one of the worst video game adaptations I have ever seen. And I'm including the Halo TV show in that, and you know how much I hated that.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
This is so much worse.
I mean, it's semantics. They said the Fallout show is the worst one they've seen yet, and that includes the Halo TV series. But I mean, like, what the actual fuck? The reason I believe this corroborates their bad faith is because if we're seriously going to compare the writing, characters, and dialogue of the Amazon Fallout series to fucking this?
That is affirmative. They insisted on the most attractive team, so sorry, Riz.
Suck big ass cream.
I think you've not only lost the discussion, but we're actively looking and wanting to compare the Fallout TV show to the levels of the Halo TV series from the outset. There was never any chance of redemption, you wanted it to be as bad or worse than the Halo show, and we're waiting to compare every little detail to it. Now obviously, on some level, it is fair to compare these two. Both are futuristic sci-fi video game TV adaptations. Obviously not entirely the same, but on paper, there is merit to wanting to compare the two of them. I, however, firmly believe that any comparisons they were wanting to make between the two were already in bad faith given the evidence provided, and just how extremist and elitist these guys are. I mean, the last quick example I'll make about this point is the fact that these guys just vehemently hate Bethesda, and more specifically Todd Howard. Like, it's to the levels that it actually offends them personally and probably spiritually at this point.
Also, how the fuck is he supposed to... Oh, right. Bethesda.
So, given the fact that the show was being made by Bethesda, with direct help in production from Todd Howard himself, I mean, just tally it up on the chalkboard is another reason why these guys are so elitist, that they went in extremely bad faith from the start, before the show even released. But I think I've covered this more than enough, and proven my point extensively. So, what about their actual complaints about the show? Well, perhaps one of the most egregious examples I can think of is the title of Creetosis' Episode 4 reaction. Quote, "Why did they make a filler episode? To be as fair and good faith as possible, I decided to watch the entire reaction to see what Creetosis was referring to as filler. Both Pagan and Setch were reacting alongside him, and to my surprise, not fucking once throughout the entire video did any of them actually elaborate why Episode 4 was filler. I take a lot of issue with this because Episode 4 of the show is one of the most important episodes for Lucy's character. Going through the hero's journey, she comes out of the Ghoul facility somewhat transformed and far more prepared for the quest ahead of her. In fact, the best thing I can find in regards to any of them even mentioning filler in this video is one moment where Creetosis basically just says he doesn't care for a plotline in the entire story.
I was there the first time that you tried rhubarb pie and ice cream.
I am so exceedingly uninterested in the story of what's going on in the fucking vault.
Yeah, like, I get that they're trying to set up this whole, like, conspiracy and backstabbing council members and things like that. It's just... I don't fucking... The real questions are all out there, and especially since the stuff we're getting in the vault is stupid things like rehabilitate the prisoners that are clearly intelligent and tried to murder everybody and raped a couple people. Yeah.
Like, at this point, it just feels like it's wasting time. Maybe it'll build up to something, but... I don't know, man.
Yeah, it feels like padding. Like they were trying to get another episode out of Season 1, basically. So they needed to extend the runtime on everything.
Yeah.
This is also incredibly ridiculous because not only is the plotline surrounding the vault very fucking important going forward, but episode 4 especially has an immensely important reveal for that plotline near the end. For Creetosis to not only admit that he's basically not paying attention to this plotline, but to go on and call this episode fucking filler? Well, it's not only incredibly disingenuous, but, well, an outright fucking lie. Ladies and gents, this is the same man saying the Act Man lacked integrity when he's willing willing to fucking lie to his audience without explanation. I sense projection. This wasn't the only instance I can point to in this same video of him outright lying. About halfway into the video, Creetosis tried to make the claim that he more or less knew what this drug is in the show. Small spoilers, but there is this unexplained yellow substance that the ghoul Howard seems to take and seek throughout the show to stage off going feral. Creetosis made this bold claim about more or less knowing that they're doing a quote-unquote Zombrex but for ghouls.
Also, I hate this thing of like, oh yeah, ghouls literally can't go a single day without this fucking weird shit, or else they go feral.
Yeah.
And pass out, apparently.
People have dropped hints about what that is, and someone has explained it outright, and it's fucked. I shouldn't say I fully know what it is, but enough has been said where I pretty much know what it is.
Oh no, I'm worried.
Oh,
I thought it was Radaway at first, but it's not. Yeah, I know it's not Radaway.
Want me to just give it away?
Yeah, I genuinely don't give a fuck.
Such?
Can I guess that it's gonna be a form of FEV or some shit?
I don't know that. That hasn't been said to me, but what it's been described as is similar to an item from another game, let's say. Can I say that? Like, what it is.
Is it like Zombrex?
That's exactly what's been dropped, yes.
What the fuck?
From everything I've seen, this is just a wild theory, and one that I've only seen brought up on Reddit with no actual sources behind the claims. No writers or showrunners have confirmed this or elaborated what the substance actually is, so this is just a stupid lie. And we're supposed to just believe this episode is filler? That you actually care to analyze or review the show's contents fairly? Shut the fuck up and spare me the cope. I mean, one of the next absolutely retarded critiques of the show was that the Enclave, quote, wouldn't be that evil in regards to the Enclave scientists vetting out and killing puppies that don't meet the requirements.
I don't know, I can't get over that burning puppies thing. What the fuck was that?
I don't know.
Because, like, even in Fallout, you know, in the actual games, they didn't just, like, randomly kill animals, you know? Like, even if they weren't, like, perfect or however, you know, like... So that's the thing about Fallout. They didn't just randomly kill people and animals. They actually tried to, like, do stuff with them, where even if they were, like, deformed or something, they would still keep them around. They probably wouldn't sell them. You know, they didn't just, like, murder them because they're fucking evil. They didn't go, yes, we incinerate puppies for being literally, like, 10 ounces underweight.
Or less than 10 ounces. This is the Enclave, though, so it makes sense that they're horrible, evil bad guys who burn puppies. This... Are
they Enclave? How do you know that? How do you know they're Enclave?
Because he's the escaped Enclave scientist they mentioned in the previous episode.
I don't remember them mentioning he was Enclave.
Well, they said there was an escaped Enclave guy they're looking for, and it was his picture that they were sharing.
God, I must have been so fucking out of it by that point. I didn't even hear that.
I also didn't include it in the video you just watched, because there's pretty much no point. There's not much to it. So yeah, our literal introduction to the Enclave is, oh, look at them, they burn puppies. Aren't they evil? I mean, yeah, the Enclave are bad guys. I never got the impression the Enclave would literally just burn puppies.
Yeah. This just feels like we need to set up how evil they are, so let's just do, like, the most cartoonishly evil shit we can to show that they're evil.
Yeah.
The Enclave, the same fucking faction that was cracking open and killing Vault residents at the start of Fallout 2. Not to mention, these are clearly scientists running some kind of facility. It's not too absurd to believe they'd be vetting out any specimens that don't meet their prerequisites. Honestly, with this in context, it just feels like they're looking for things to nitpick and reasons to bitch. But I could honestly be here all fucking day talking about them and their terrible criticisms. I mean, trust me, there's no lack of bad critiques and cope arguments on their part. The best way I can summarize it all is that they constantly project their own expectations onto the show, and even its audience and their own viewers, instead of trying to judge it fairly for its contents. And it's because they're such fucking Fallout elitists. Actually, screw that. They're mostly just New Vegas elitists.
I'll be honest, I don't remember if it was a thing in 1 and 2. I just remember New Vegas, mostly.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't a thing in 1 and 2, because, unless it was just a thing I missed that, like, oh yeah, you got training off screen. But, in fact, I know you didn't need it in 2, because when I got to Mariposa Military Base, it was a fucking shock to get advanced power armor, and you could just throw it on. So this is Bethesda retconning their own lore, just like they did in Fallout 4.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I've only played 1 and 2 once.
Yeah.
And while I do like those games, they're just not the kind of game that I really feel the need to replay, because I mostly played it for the story, which I really liked. Not a big fan of the gameplay, which is why I like New Vegas more, and I tend to take most of my stuff from New Vegas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just assumed that if New Vegas did it, then I figured 1 and 2 probably also had training, but if not, then okay.
They can't even be bothered to actually pay attention to the franchise's lore or its development. Pagan is literally brain dead about the older games and admits he mostly only references New Vegas. This mentality also ignores the grander problems that Fallout has had since its inception, which they constantly love blaming Bethesda for causing or making worse. Things like retcons or not understanding the tone of the series are all problems Fallout has had from the beginning, independent of Bethesda or Todd Howard's involvement. These guys are just too far up their own ass and echo chamber to bother stepping outside of it for once and view the problems of Fallout outside of the lens of just Bethesda bad, because that mentality doesn't invite any interesting discussion and ignores issues that Fallout has had going for it from Fallout 1 to 2. I mean, Creetosis even admits this himself, yet is too stubborn to realize how easily this contradicts most of his criticisms towards Bethesda, or how the issues they blame them for are problems with Fallout as a series, and not just Bethesda's fault.
The main reason I'm looking at this article, aside from the fact that some of the first information we had about the show, is one comment from the showrunners in particular. It is just a gonzo, crazy, funny adventure and a mindfuck like none you've ever seen before. This already gives me a really bad impression because part of the problem with Bethesda Fallout is that they lean hard into the jokey, wacky, and weird aspect of the Fallout franchise, which is not what Fallout is about. The original Fallout was a really dark and grim game. The humor aspect was a very small part of the game. The main problem with this is that Fallout 2 took it to new levels with frequent references to Monty Python and stuff like Doctor Who and Star Trek, which were just really unnecessary and distracting from the game. It's arguably the worst part of Fallout 2 is all the pop culture references and silly jokes they have, because it undermines the tone of the setting, which again is supposed to be very dark. Fallout 2 is personally my favorite Fallout game in the entire franchise, and I believe the humor aspect is absolutely the worst part of Fallout 2.
I can't even begin to fathom how blind and stubborn you'd have to be to cope this fucking hard without realizing how stupid it sounds or the actual truth behind it. But I mean, Christ, like I said, I could literally sit here all day and find examples to point to of these guys having poor criticisms, not understanding the lore or outright lying about it, lack of research about the series before levying criticisms, claiming to understand the franchise better than most, while outright lying to your audience, as well as blaming Bethesda for issues that the franchise has had and perpetuated since Fallout 1 to 2. So I mean, if you guys really want me to cover more of this, or even on a stream, I guess let me know, because I think I am going to wrap this video up here as it stands, y'all. I don't see a point in dragging out these examples any further, and in context, a lot of them just speak for themselves, I'm not gonna lie. But I am gonna end it off here, guys. I really don't want to melt my brain any further with this bullshit as it is, and I'd much rather just go watch the Fallout show again than listen to them anymore. So, big ups for watching the video as always, and you know, maybe subscribe for some more quality therapy, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.